And away we go. It is the Nightcap brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com. www.galacticfriedchicken.com for everything Galactic, including delivery right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Or you can head down and see our friends Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner down in Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up, save yourself 15% off of the Galactic goodness. It is out of this world. Hi, Aaron.
Yo.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
We missed you last night, but figured we would save your commentary for Monday night on what'll be a big BBP as we react to pretty wild week in University of Cincinnati sports. So we'll have a lot there. Did you have fun at the spring game? It was delightful.
It was, yeah. I don't know if you can tell, my whole forehead is completely sunburned.
Yeah. Kelsey was like, Dad, I got kind of burnt yesterday. I was like, yeah, you were in the sun all day.
I feel like even yesterday, I felt like it had sunburned me a little on my shoulders through the shirt. But it was just a nice day.
So soft.
That's fine. The breeze was wonderful. I loved it all. And then I actually went to Galactic Fried Chicken afterwards and had some food. Shane sat down with me and we got to just chill, talk for a little while. So it was a nice little day.
Yeah. What'd you get?
Oh, tendies. Look, I want to get this. I told Shane even, I want to get the chicken sandwich so bad, but I'm there and I want the extra tender. Like I don't want to just be like,
I don't want to.
Right. So, and then I made sure to get
you can order an a la carte tender.
Look, that's fine. I don't care. I want 3 tenders and no bread. I just but I ended up getting a bottle on the way out. So I got some Galactic sauce out here again. Just like I said, just delightful.
You gotta get ready for summer. You gotta get ready for summer.
For sure.
Galactic sauce. Come on. Come on now. All right then. You have a topic you want to talk about that is it's an interesting one for me too, because I have lots of thoughts. So I'll turn it over and let's rock and roll.
Well, this article is a little old. It's 5 days old, so you know it's last week's news. We've gone through about 7 news cycles since then already. But this was written by Brian Hamilton.
But we had actual things to talk about on this on this show. Like we haven't had time to like branch out for a week.
But this was written by Brian Hamilton as he discussed of The Athletic. But he discussed UConn Purdue showed blueprint for building NCAA championship rosters again. Both of them kind of similar in the way that they built their rosters. Also, obviously, a little bit different as we saw. But
go get 2 guys that are giant humans.
Sure.
Who are larger than giant humans that are skilled and coordinated and really good at basketball. That makes the rest of everything they did a little bit easier, but I digress.
But they kind of broke down one of your favorite teams to watch, probably more so UConn, being that I don't know, they won the championship as
twice.
Purdue well, back to back, yeah. But Purdue did struggle as it wasn't a particularly close game, 75-60 for that final score.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it seems as I was looking at the way that they did it and the way that Cincinnati is doing things, that there seem to be at least some places that you can draw some correlations. It seems that I feel like Cincinnati, while not quite there yet, is at least following the blueprint. They're following the instructions as have been laid out by one Dan Hurley. And I don't necessarily think that it's the wrong way for this team to be going about things. And as we are in the transfer portal and still going through things, that's why I decided this would be a decent conversation to have right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think Wes has always kind of been on the same path of like roster construction, growing a program that Danny had when he got to UConn. You know, the early results weren't great. Wes actually had a better like first 2-year little window than Danny did. Also both in the American Conference, but then they moved back to the Big East and things really started to click for UConn.
Which is an odd thing as well, that they moved into the Big East
Yeah,
and
now
West moved
Cincinnati
into
goes into
the
the
Big
Big
12.
12.
But I think for starters, you do have to get things where you want them, and we kind of saw this with Wes. You do have to tear everything down to get things going the way that you want them to go. So while the 6-7 replacement guys is not a sustainable thing, that is something that is a necessary evil initially to get things on track.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a blueprint. You have to have a plan. And I don't think West necessarily like ran anybody off as much as it was a fractured situation when he got here. He held it together as best he could as he continued to build.
With duct
But
tape and rubber
yeah,
bands, toothpicks.
still didn't fall apart, didn't crater in any way. And now you're on that upswing of getting better talent, more stability. Your culture is, kind of becoming solidified. So I think, some of the decisions and some of the things are obviously different, but there is kind of a blueprint that you're about to get to when looking at not only at this year's UConn roster, but last year's UConn roster, a little bit of Purdue. Like I said, it is a little bit skewed because they got something that really nobody has, and that's two monster human beings that nobody could stop,
Sure.
that were actually skilled and athletic and like coordinated, and you could throw them the ball and they could just destroy you.
Well, and I know everybody who watches us talk enough knows how I feel about post game, and I know that I'm probably over the top about it. Go figure. But there is something to be said for having a guy that can do those things down low, and it's kind of a lost art.
Sure. Um, and I think they're very valuable. There's just not many of them.
Right.
There's just not a lot out there that especially, it's one thing you find a guy that's like 6'9", 6'10", that can
That can
play
do
in the
those things.
post.
Yes.
Did you find one that's 7'4"?
Well, and he was a development piece. He wasn't just
Well,
because he and
Klingon, who's 7'2", was a 5-star or whatever.
right.
Edie was a development. Like, he
Right.
just, hey, we'll take this 7'4" guy and see if it clicks. Well, it clicked.
It did. It did.
So that's where that's where the roster construction is a little different. But I think at the core of what Brian Hamilton was getting at is you need to have some backbone, some guys that have been around a little while, some guys that understand. You need to continue to build through freshmen, but you have to find the right freshmen because there's not going to be a lot of room at the top of your roster in any given year. So while a guy like what?
Truthfully, there's not a ton of room for those developmental pieces, even at the back end of your roster, if you're serious about competing for titles.
No, there is, because
not a ton.
Had them. You kind of had them.
Let me finish.
Let me finish. So that is what UConn successfully pulled off, is that they found the right guys to where there's continuation. So there's a couple guys that were on this roster last year that didn't play mega roles, that weren't guys that were like 30 plus minute a night guys on last year's national championship team. There's graduation in the NBA draft. That part of the roster moves on. The guys that didn't get the spotlight all of a sudden move up into the spotlight. And because they're still really talented, you can carry on. That's where teams get in trouble, right? Is that middle of your roster isn't good enough to replace the top of your roster. And now you're scrambling every year to kind of restock that top. And that's where, especially UConn, because they won the championship last year, their culture rising up, and then they supplement to it a little bit. And all of a sudden, they're still the best team in the country. Purdue had just a lot of continuity. Like, that team last year was young. They went through a good season, then obviously get beat by a 16 seed. But they come back. Those guys now have experience. They just weren't good enough. They weren't better than UConn's guards. Is why UConn won the national championship.
I mean, they weren't tall enough. It's one of the points that is brought up here in this article.
Yeah.
But the blueprint as he lays out here is, I'll read this paragraph here. It was led Monday by a former transfer guard who was finishing his second year with the program, Tristan Newton, for the second time in as many years, the engine of a title game win. It also started a third-year forward who sat out his freshman season, a sophomore and a freshman who will be first-round picks, and a fifth-year transfer guard who was very selectively plucked from the portal. And I think you can draw some similarities there to what Cincinnati has done with their roster construction. You talk about the former transfer guard finishing his second year with the program in Tristan Newton. And I think that you can draw a comparison to Simas Lukosius, as this is going to be his second year. He's kind of a de facto leader. We saw that leadership really bloom towards the end of the season in pretty much everything that he did, and he's exemplified what it is around here to be a Bearcat. I guess as we continue on through the comparisons here, though, you talk about a third-year forward who sat out his freshman season. I think that that's close to what you have in Dan Skillings. You have a sophomore and a freshman who will be first-round picks. Well, there you could talk about guys like,
just
not
Tyler Betsy.
Well, not first-round picks.
Their rankings and
correct.
Yeah.
But that's where I would say Jizzle, Tyler Betsy, or even one of the other Tylers. But,
sure.
We'll see which one really stands out. Probably the scorer, whichever one that may be. And then a fifth-year transfer guard. We're looking at guys like potentially a Connor Hickman or a Kirk Krisa or a Warwick.
Warwick, yeah.
Whoever you bring in here is probably just going to be filling in that role. But that's, again, you're looking at several guys to fill one spot. So you're very selectively going through the portal to make sure the guy fits your culture, fits what you want to scheme, fits what you want from a guy coming in here. But I think that that's where you're seeing, again, some of these comparisons to what Dan Hurley did.
Well, and that's why having the culture part is important, Aaron, because you don't want to constantly get to the spring and need 5 new guys, 6 new guys. Like, so if you're going to have a year where, after this year, there's going to be a pretty good number of openings.
Sure.
If Dan goes pro and Simas and Aziz and, all of a sudden you lose 5, 6, 7 guys. You want to get some high school guys, 2 or 3 really high level high school guys, top 100, 4-star type players. And then you want to supplement that with 2 or 3 or 4 portal guys so that you can still maintain some of that flow. But overall, like that's what you want to do, is you want to be able to go target 2 or 3 guys in the portal and say, okay, this is what we're looking for. This is what our board looks like. Let's focus on that and not have to spend time. You'll see schools have their name in the mix for 70% of the kids posted. That's because their coaches all day are just calling the portal and seeing who answers and who doesn't, and what kind of traction they can get.
Yeah, that allows
2 or 3 spots,
that allows you to cross names off the board real quick and focus, hone in on where you want to go. Yeah, it makes complete sense.
So, that's kind of the beauty of it, is there have been a couple years here recently where there's a ton of names because they have to call a ton of guys because they have to fill a bunch of spots. And when you don't have a bunch of spots you have to fill, you can take a little bit more of a slower, more methodical kind of posture when it comes to the portal. Guess what? You just got to make sure you get them.
Yeah, I think
now you've identified them, you got to make sure you get them.
I think it allows you, when you're only looking for 2 to 3 guys, it allows you to be more in control of the situation. It allows you to be obviously more selective. It allows you to kind of find the guys that are the fits, as opposed to scrambling and trying to just fill your roster.
Yep. Baseball, unfortunately, I don't have any more on that. Do you?
No, I think that covered all the comparisons I wanted to draw.
Okay.
We're on the right path.
Yeah. Baseball, they lost a tough one on Friday, and it kind of spiraled on them the rest of the week.
Did you watch it?
They're up. No, they were up 4-1 going
I watched
into the
the
bottom
end.
of the 8th, and ended up losing in extra innings. Had struggled really on Saturday. Today they had a lead early, and then I can't remember if it was the 5th or 6th that Oklahoma State put a rally together.
Yeah,
and got some separation. Cincinnati got it back to within 1, but in the end they get swept at Oklahoma State. Following the sweep, the unexpected sweep of TCU, they're still not as talented as a team like Oklahoma State. You're going into their place. They're ranked in the top 20. You're still building. You're still trying to get things where you want, but they put up a lot of fight. I didn't get a chance to watch much, but they battled through Friday and Sunday, even though they didn't win either. Saturday, some of these games you can just write off, and I think you could unfortunately maybe see that one coming after the way Friday unraveled.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough one to watch at the end.
Yeah.
I've been watching the Reds, and I switched over, and the way that they lost, second baseman and right field going for a fly ball to be a miscommunication, and drops in for a double to lead off the 10th for Oklahoma State, and then he steals third, 2 intentional walks, and just a shot over the center fielder's head and walked it off with a single. But you do have some get right games as Eastern Kentucky will be. They have a homestand here for the next week or so. Eastern Kentucky comes on Tuesday. Xavier is here Wednesday. And then you host Houston for the weekend. And I think that's certainly a chance for a bounce back week.
Yep.
So,
and on the women's side, I reported this on the website and on Twitter today. Arizona transfer guard Kaylin Gilbert, who is one of the higher rated transfer options in the portal on the women's side, is on campus. She's in town, and we'll see if the coaching staff can get that one done. It would add a big time point guard who I think was just over 15 points a game at Arizona last year.
nice.
So there you go. It's going to wrap it up. We will see you tomorrow night for the BBP. That is the nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!